Hey folks, Coach Glenn here. It is Friday, December 16th, and today we're going to talk about why protein, which is one of your three main macronutrients, is the king of your nutrition. Protein, when you eat it, all the amino acids that are in proteins are the building blocks of cells, and that's what gives you your structure. So if you didn't have any amino acids, you wouldn't have the frame that you have. And so amino acids are also the building blocks for your muscles and your cells. So if you are extremely active and you're working out a ton, you need the amino acid profile to help you recover and repair and to replenish what you've lost. So another reason why protein, in my opinion, and this isn't just my opinion, it's the research and the gurus, the nutritionists and the doctors that I follow, they all say that protein is essential. If you are not eating enough protein, you will find that you just won't have the strength. You won't have the same muscle structure. You won't have the energy. Low protein also suppresses your immune system. So if you are always getting sick or you feel weak and frail, then your protein intake is probably too low. So what I would highly recommend that you do is increase your protein. And the ranges vary and everyone's different. There's no perfect range for everyone. It can range from 0.5 grams per pound body weight up to 1.7 to 2, depending on how active you are and depending on your stress levels and what's going on in your life. But for simple math, I would say at a minimum, let's go with 1 gram per pound body weight. So say if you are 150 pounds, you would need 150 grams a day. Now that's very easy to accomplish if you just put your mind to it and focus. Essentially, it would be making sure that you're having protein with every meal and every snack. Now you don't need a ton. You don't need to have a whole plate of chicken or a whole plate of beef or 8 eggs for breakfast. You don't need those quantities. But what you do need is to be making sure that you're having your protein with every time that you eat. You never want to have a carb-only meal. And for the most part, folks, very few people that I have talked to, and based on the research I've done, need carbohydrates in the amount they're getting it. Low carb is the way to go. And the best way to do that is to just add larger portions of protein to all your meals and snacks. And protein also comes, for the most part, with a little bit of fat. And so with the combo of protein and fat, and by the way, folks, fat doesn't make you fat. If you eat a ton of fat, yes, and you're inactive, yeah, that's going to make you fat. But having a little bit of healthy fat with your protein is not going to make you fat. But what that will also do is it will allow you to feel fuller longer, which means you're not going to crave as many carbs. And so that's why protein, in my opinion, is king. Now, I'm just going to open my computer here because I don't have these memorized. But what I want you to do is I want you to take note of here is an approved list of proteins. So your beef should be grass-fed and grass-finished. Your eggs should be all raised in the pasture. Your chickens, poultry, the same thing, raised in the pasture, pasture-raised, pasture-fed. Lamb, grass-fed and finished. Bison, grass-fed and finished. Fish, wild caught. We don't want farmed. Now, if farmed is your only option, so be it. It's better than not having. It's better than not having any fish at all. Shellfish, wild game, anything that is wild that you catch in the wild. And if you are focused on plant-based, spirulina and chlorella are excellent green-based proteins that are very dense with algae. So there's many, many benefits. And then if you are going to be supplementing with protein powder, which I recommend personally, I have a shake a day because oftentimes it's convenient and sometimes you just get tired of eating all the time. I typically have 3 meals a day and then I have my one shake. Now, there's some days I might only eat twice and have a shake, or there might be some days where I only eat twice and have no shake. But for the most part, it depends on my activity level, depends on what I've got going on. If I'm really active, like say I'm walking or biking or I'm lifting weights, then obviously I'm going to be more active. So I'm going to be hungrier and I'm going to want to recover and replenish, especially if I'm in the weight room throwing around some weights. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be probably eating 3 to 4 times a day. But the old school dogma of, you've got to have 5 or 6 meals a day to keep your metabolism up, that's BS. It's a myth. You do not need that. That is not required for you to increase your metabolism. Your metabolism is based on your hormones. And so if your hormones are out of whack, that will dictate how often you need to eat. And that will dictate your metabolism. So it doesn't work the other way around. If you eat a little bit more, you could slightly increase your metabolism. But what a lot of people do is they eat less. They eat way too little, and it can slow down your metabolism by not eating enough. But for the most part, which is counterintuitive, because you would think, oh, well, if I'm going to eat less, I'm going to get leaner because my body's going to start to use some of my stored body fat for fuel. But it does, in fact, slow down your metabolism a little bit, to the point where now you're not burning any additional fat for fuel off your body, because your body is now conserving that for when they think they're going to need it, because you're essentially starving yourself or really, really eating the bare minimum. So long story short, you got to eat more protein. Protein is king. You want to be making sure that you have a little bit of protein every time you eat. And the serving size does not have to be massive. Like literally what fits in the palm of your hand is a serving size. So like a 5 to 6 ounce steak, can of tuna or can of fish, a chicken breast that can fit in your palm. You can't really do 2.5 eggs, but 2 to 3 eggs would be a serving size. So based on that, folks, I've given you some pretty good guidelines to take away and start making protein the priority, and for your nutrition plan. And if you do have any questions, feel free to leave a message in the comments, and I will reach out to you, whether it's live or whether it's days from now, or I'll even reach out to you privately if you want to take this off of a public forum. But I'm hoping that helps you. Keep in mind, folks, that changes don't happen overnight. And a lot of people get into I'll start in the new year. And then the new year happens, and the first 2 weeks in January, they eat better, they work out a ton, and they're so sore and they're so hungry because they think they have to starve themselves, or they have to get rid of all carbs. And then they fall off the wagon and they get back to what they typically do the other 11 months of the year. So remember, it's small baby steps. You are building your temple brick by brick. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a week. You got to have patience and you got to have commitment. And I guarantee, even if for the next 3 months, if you focused on just changing your daily protein intake and had less processed foods, less carbohydrates, I guarantee that alone will turn your health around. And that's just one way. So have a great rest of your Friday and your weekend, folks. We will talk to you again next Friday. And I look forward to it right before the holidays. So have a great one, and we will talk to you again soon. Thank you for tuning in.